Thanks, Reese, and I hope that there is, in fact, soon a center and chair at Sikh Studies at the GTU. But I know that even though the courses are fairly new in Sikh Studies at GTU, back when I was associated with the GTU, when I was at Berkeley in early 1970s, when we started with Nirinjan Kaur help the first Sikh Studies conference in 1976, the GTU was a co-sponsor, so it has a long heritage of association with Sikh Studies, and I'm sure it has a great future as well. Now, we've been looking at different kinds of educational institutions and the way in which Sikh Studies is related to them, and the next one is another in this diverse panoply of educational varieties that we're presenting to you. Loyola Marymount University is a traditional Jesuit university in Los Angeles, and I'm delighted to say that as the university has changed over the years, become more multi-faith, Dr. Nirinjan Kaur Khalsa is now a professor of Sikh and Jain studies, and we're delighted to have her here to talk about what Sikh Studies is like at LMU.
Waheguru Kaur Khalsa, Waheguru Ki Fateh. Thank you all for having me here today. And thank you to the Sikh Foundation, and congratulations on your 50th anniversary. We all had a beautiful event last night and this wonderful gathering, bringing everybody together to think about how we can advance Sikhs with education. I feel very honored to be a part of this conference. And I have sincere gratitude I want to offer to Dr. Kapani, who has been a stalwart supporter of Sikh Studies, Sikh heritage, as we witnessed with the museum yesterday and with this beautiful gathering and all of the work that we've learned that has been going on for 50 years here. I want to thank Sonia Dhami and Inderjeet Thakur for your communications and care in organizing this event and making this conference again possible, and to Stanford University for hosting this interdisciplinary Sikh conference and for their support of Indic traditions. And then for all of you for being here with us today. I'm honored to be on this esteemed panel with Dr. Pashora Singh Ji and Nikki Guninder Ji. They have welcomed me into Sikh Studies. I'm a junior scholar. I've just begun teaching now, and it's wonderful to be here with you. And thank you for always offering your support and feedback whenever I've had any questions. It's been wonderful to be on this panel with you and be working with you. And to Dr. Juergensmeyer, thank you so much. I've long admired your work. And to be on this panel with President Potterfeld of GTU and Dean Stovall of USC Santa Cruz. So again, we see all of the support that's happening in all of these different universities for Sikh Studies, for Jain Studies, and for really supporting the Indic traditions. Okay. Oh, where did my, oh, thank you. I'll let you do that. And I would like to thank Dr. Silek Jain and Dr. Harvinder Singh Sahota. Dr. Silek Jain is here on this panel, and Dr. Harvinder Singh Sahota will present tomorrow. They've been tireless sources of support and inspiration and insight, and they're true models of interreligious friendship. It's their friendship and dedication to highlighting the underrepresented Sikh and Jain religious traditions that gave them the vision to bring these two traditions together into one professorship of Jain and Sikh Studies at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. And Dr. Silek Jain will speak then about this interreligious friendship that, that is developing or has been continuing on throughout Sikh history and that we're continuing to develop today. Let's see. So it's a communal effort. I'm also wanting to acknowledge and thank everybody so we can all realize it really is a communal effort. It takes a lot of support, dedication, and cooperation to advance Sikhs with education. Advancing Sikhs, it can't be completed without the support of donors, professors, universities, colleges. And then it's through the support that we've had professorships, chairs, and programs within these traditions. I'm going to speak specifically about the courses that I teach, and mainly the Sikh Studies courses that I teach at Loyola Marymount University. And it's funded by donations from the Sikh and Jain communities of Southern California and the Uberoi Foundation. These donations and support have allowed us to host annual conferences. So last year we had a conference on the music and poetics of devotion and the Sikh and Jain traditions. It was an international consortium of musicians and professors speaking about these traditions. And then we also, this year in February, we just had the conference Spiritual Warriors, Nonviolence in the Sikh and Jain Traditions, and we were also able to host, following that, we were able to host a My Bhago Women's Retreat with women in the Sikh community who are working on social justice work. So this was hosted by LMU and the Sikh Coalition and Valerie Carr's Revolutionary Love Project and Auburn Seminary in New York City. So we have had these conferences and the students. I bring in the students and they help me organize the conference. They participated. They helped me set up this library exhibit that we were able to host in the library there. And we also are able to have certificate programs that are in development right now to bring community members within Southern California and worldwide, actually, if they would like to come, to take Sikh community members to come and take study in something about the Sikh tradition, whether it's looking at how to really perform all of the services that we do within a gurudwara, if people want to know how to do ardas, sukhasan, maybe we're also looking at perhaps doing music courses, kirtan courses, things like that, really delving into japji, these types of courses. I've also been able to have a lot of, because we're in Los Angeles, we've been able to have a lot of guest speakers come in. Singh Sahib Gurjota Singh Khalsa, who is here today, he came in and spoke about the Sikh warrior tradition, and Sadasat Simran Singh as well, of Chardi Kala Jetta. They play kirtan at Darbar Sahib, and he also was able to come and speak about his experience doing kirtan, playing at Darbar Sahib as well. Dr. Kuldeep Singh, he's the head grunty at Nanak Sadan Gurdwara. He has a PhD from Punjabi University, Patiala, and he comes in and speaks about Japji. Dr. Karan Leonard, she has done a lot of work on the first Sikh Punjabi immigrants here in California, and she's able to give, so we have so many people giving very diverse perspectives of what it is to be Sikh. And the rich amount of Sikh history that we've had. And so having so many diverse voices, I think, really allows students to see the full view of what Sikhi is and what it has to offer. So there's a great amount of work that is being done and a lot of positive outcomes that we've had because of this. Today I'm going to focus on the positive outcomes of the engaged learning practices that I have the students do in these classes. I teach a Sikhism Warrior Saints class, and it offers students a lived experience of Sikhi. It allows them to gain in-depth knowledge of Sikh history, thought, and practice. So we spend the whole beginning of the semester going through Sikh history. We read Gurbani. We do a lot to give them a real content to work with when they go then in the second half of the semester and do engaged learning practices. It provides them deeply meaningful experiences. Oh, I'm staying on this. It provides them deeply meaningful experience of Sikhi that the students consistently report will stay with them for the rest of their lives and that they will share with others. So it's by having these experiences of Sikh values and Sikh communities that then they really are just compelled themselves to want to share it. And this is the feedback that I continue to receive. And it's because they're gaining experiential knowledge that dynamically informs their own spirituality and faith traditions and worldviews. The choice to focus on these experiential practices through the engaged learning flag in my courses is informed by my own education. Growing up in the 3HO Sikh Dharma community with Sri Singh Sahib Bhai Sahib Harbhajan Singh Khalsa Yogi Ji, he always has highlighted to us the importance of experiencing Sikhi through various embodied methodologies. So this idea of experience has been core to my own upbringing within this community. I was raised a Sikh. My parents became Sikhs in the 70s, so I was born into this Sikh tradition. I attended Montessori schools, and these Montessori schools, if you're not familiar, they teach practices and experiential ways of knowing that encourage learning for its own sake, without thought of punishment and reward. So they don't give grades. So I give my students this speech at the beginning of the class, that I want them to learn for learning's sake, and not thinking about an outcome. Like, you're here, you're gaining knowledge, use your time wisely. So I encourage them to finish all assignments as well. And studying Gurbani Kirtan, I've also studied Gurbani Kirtan through the traditional oral educative process with 13th generation exponent by Baldeep Singh. I studied the Geordie Pakavage, and as well with his granduncles by Avtar Singh and by Gurcharan Singh, and his uncle by Kultar Singh. Bible Deep Singh honored me as the first female exponent of the Geordie Pakavage, so I've had a lot of experience. The notion of experience and what it can bring to your knowledge is rooted in the way that I teach also. That led me to then a graduate program at University of Michigan, where I gained a Fulbright scholarship to go to India and interview the remaining memory bearers of the Gurbani Kirtan tradition. And this is just a list of the various people that I was able to interview, some who have since passed. And it's these pedagogical methodologies then that recognize the importance of experiential education for true knowing, or gnosis. It is this background in the academic and Guru Shishya paramparas that has taught me the value of a comprehensive and a holistic education. Because of this, my own pedagogical approach aims to bring together the intellectual and experiential realms so that students may gain a deeper insight into Sikh thought, Sikh history, and practice. I am effectively able to accomplish this goal through the engaged learning opportunities afforded by the theological environment at Loyola Marymount University, which is grounded in Jesuit theology and Ignatian spirituality. Saint Ignatius, who is here, was a Spanish soldier who, after being wounded in battle, found his religious calling and instructed his Jesuits to find God in all things and to be contemplatives in action, who used their spirituality to be men and women for others through their service and their social justice work. The current Pope is a Jesuit, so it's a lot about social justice work. Jesuit theology is also rooted then in this warrior saint mentality that the Sikhs have. So it's an effective framework through which to teach Sikhism. Because Sikhism teaches that God is in all things, Ek Onkar, and that it is our duty to be warrior saints who stand against injustice, promote equality, and selflessly serve others. Through meditative or saintly practices, through this contemplative mentality that's focused on Nam Simran and the remembrance of the Nam. This name that is that experience of God that allows our egos to mrana, simrana, for our egos to die. So we have these practices that allow our egos to die, so we serve others. So the mission of the Jesuit institution at LMU has long supported this interfaith study. That's stated in their mission here that I have. It embraces interfaith dialogue, creates opportunities for engaging others, to move people beyond tolerance towards mutual respect and understanding. It promotes education of the whole person and the service of faith and the promotion of justice. It fulfills this by encouraging personal integration of the student's thinking, feeling, choosing, and evolving selves. So it's this idea then that we're working on a holistic education to evolve our own selves, our thinking, our feeling, our choosing selves, by fostering then not only academic and professional growth, which is incredibly important, but also their physical, their social, their psychological, moral, cultural, and spiritual growth. So it's within this framework that I am able to then teach Sikhism warrior saints with an engaged learning flag. So audiences, and I teach mostly to non-Sikh audiences. I've had 2 Sikh students and many South Asian students in my courses. but this is mostly to a non-Sikh audience. They're not familiar with Sikh concepts, practices, or way of life, and so I want to offer them this holistic education so they can be more knowledgeable and informed about Sikh beliefs and practices, particularly within this political climate, which has incited fear and of difference, and it's escalated hate-based violence and rhetoric, which we're all very well aware of. Such an experiential education promotes cultural interaction and immersion. Students attend gurudwaras. They sit in on the Sunday school classes there. They interview community members. Students are able to experience Sikh religion, culture firsthand, and gain a deeper sense of appreciation for the Sikh culture. So it's wonderful. A lot of the Sikh programs throughout the United States do this. They have students go to Sikh gurudwaras, and students always come out of it feeling much more aware, knowledgeable, and positive about the Sikh tradition. Students also within my classes, this is something that's different. I have them immerse themselves in a 40-day practice so they can choose what they want to do for those 40 days, whether it's meditation, Nam Simran, seva. Some have chosen to do vegetarianism and practicing non-attachment. So moving away from our vices, kam, krodh, lobh, moh, ahankar. So how can we do this? So some choose to find ways to push away the ego by just being more aware, and a lot of them choose to disconnect themselves from social media, which is so prevalent today, and they really find that social media is anxiety-inducing for them, actually doesn't make them happier, and they feel so much more uplifted, able to connect with people on a more intimate basis. So I let them completely choose whatever they want to do for their own practice. Pardon? Oh dear, okay. So we do service learning through the Khalsa Peace Corps, the food trucks, and they do seva at gurudwara. And I have them reflect then on their experiences within their journals and their papers. So it's worth stressing that, that it's not about converting someone to the faith, but it's about really giving them experience of what these traditions are. So UNESCO has recognized that the educational system is an essential and preferred vehicle for the prevention of religious intolerance. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights of the United Nations stated that the provision of religious education, provided it's neutral and objective, can make a real contribution to the prevention of intolerance and discrimination by helping pupils realize their own individual, communal, and cultural identity and provide ethical guidance. So I give students these practices so that they can think about how it is to live as another, but this is also done in a neutral and objective way, and I'll get to that in a second. The National Sikh Campaign recently noted in 2015, they did a survey, and 60% of Americans know little to nothing about Sikh Americans. So when we educate students about Sikhi and their practices, then they develop cultural religious awareness, sensitivity, and they share that knowledge with others. We have a lot of hate crimes and a lot of prejudice in this world. So I'm just going to quickly share some student feedback because I have a lot of really wonderful things the students have said, and then I'll wrap up. So this framing allows students to acknowledge their own preconceptions and stereotypes that filter how they understand and perceive knowledge, religion, and others. This semester, a senior expresses his own experience growing up in America with prejudices and reflects on what he has learned from the experiences offered in this course, such as meditating and attending gurudwara. So he chose meditation in his 40-day practice. Most Americans, he says, and I'm going to be quoting him, these days are socialized to judge people based on looks, especially because of terrorism. Even I was taught to have a racist side and grew up judging people of a certain color before I gained the knowledge to know better than to do so. Meditation is a good way to dive into the culture of the Sikh faith and learn firsthand rather than see it from an outside perspective and be tempted to judge. He says, growing up as a Christian, I only knew how Christians worshipped, so this was a brand new experience for me. Everything was different, from the style of decorations, seating arrangements, seating style, tools of worship, musical instruments, styles of clothing, and even the basic practices. In my experience, going to Catholic school and being raised in a Christian family teaches you that there is only one way to worship. Going to the gurudwara opened my eyes to other things. This experience was extremely influential to me. It opened my mind and showed me that there are so many different ways to live and so many things I'm unaware of. I enjoyed learning about how to behave in a gurudwara and how to show respect. I also learned about real Sikhs and their experiences, which inspired me to have the courage to make necessary changes in my own life. So it's by the self-reflexively acknowledging the lenses that we live and learn and speak and think and act in the world that students are able to understand how that relates to then being warrior saints in their own lives within this warrior saint lifestyle. So, should I be done? Okay. So quickly, this is also of value to employers as well. Employers want people that are engaged with community, that are able to think outside of the box, that have intercultural skills, that are willing to continue to learn, and that they can apply that knowledge in real-world settings. And a lot of the youth today, I have other statistics, but they deal with a lot of mental health issues. So students continuously report how important being able to do practices such as meditation have been on their mental health. So every single class, we actually do breathing exercises, and then they can choose to do those for their 40-day practices if they like. This one student says it really helped him with his OCD, which he did not expect to even happen, that it made him feel a lot less anxiety. We did this during the time of Lent. So we started during Lent when a lot of Catholics are used to already giving up something, so they could inculcate something positive into their lives. One student chose to do a 40-day practice of Nam Simran, of chanting Waheguru. He's a Christian, but it was something that he found was something that brought him a lot of satisfaction and joy. And that's this one, where he practiced Waheguru for 40 days. And finally, then, students say that this allows them to grow as people, that the information that they learn in the courses also impact their spirituality and their own worldviews. So the idea is that these practices can dynamically engage and enhance their own perspectives, their own spirituality, have them feel more connected to each other, more connected within this world. And they consistently report that these are practices that they will remember well beyond school. I had other quotes that illustrate that as well, that they're going to continue to share this information with others because of the deep experiences that they've had. So while I'm a new professor, I'm just trying out these different techniques. Thus far, I found them to be very effective, and students really then understanding who Sikhs are, and I feel like we can really advance Sikhs with these types of education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.